Hello and welcome to your astrological vibrations for Friday, May 15th, 2020 by Gaia Blooming. I am Mimi and our energy mantra for today is I value and surrender to my divine flow. So we are in Moon in Pisces. We've got all of the retrogrades going on. Sun in Taurus. So I always say anytime we have Moon in Pisces or Pisces energy and Taurus energy really strongly working us, it can feel very lazy cat. And I would say that on top of all of these retrogrades and the shifts that we had this week, if you are feeling bamboozled, it's actually the word that's coming through, it's very fair and very real, and you are not alone. So let's dig into some of these things. Now, something I didn't mention with this Venus retrograde that I really feel like needs to be brought up is the fact that Venus, through the beginning parts of this retrograde, is really working in a square with Neptune. So we're not exactly conjunct yet. That will be, I believe, on Wednesday that we reach the exact conjunction. And yet they're just 1 degree apart from this square. Now this fits in so well with this Venus retrograde because Neptune can bring this spiritual, karmic energy to any relationship energies that do come up. And also, I really do feel like this is a deep dive for the yin. Where is it? I do have this card. A tuning in, a turning in. Because so much has been repressed over lifetimes, and there is so much that needs to be expressed. The yin has wisdom, the yin has knowledge, the yin has understanding that our world, in order to truly continue, in order for us to continue to evolve, thrive, rise, it needs to be brought forward. And so many, I believe, during this retrograde, this Venus retrograde, wherever you are on the spectrum, many will be tapping into this knowledge and bringing it back up into the surface. This really is a Inanna process. So if you're familiar with Inanna, there you go. And if you're not, go look her up because it's very interesting. So we've got this square. What we need to be aware with Neptune, the high and the low of Neptune, the high of Neptune, deep spiritual truths, spiritual understanding, spiritual knowledge, spiritual gnosis. That word gnosis has been coming up again for me. If you remember a few weeks ago, I was like, gnosis, gnosis, gnosis. Here it is. Excuse me. Here it is again. It's coming up so strongly. Here it is again. And this is one of the things, as people have asked me, well, how do you get your downloads? It's so weird. I will get knocked out. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I will know something, or I will see it unfold, even though I did not know this before or had never seen it unfold before. This may be the process for many of you during this transit. So be aware of things that you suddenly are just knowing or having understanding about. That's part of the downloads. That is part of this process. Now, the other side of this Neptune energy is the illusion and confusion side. And in karmic patternings, we a lot of times, have to move through the illusions. So this may be about relationships that we've had. This may be with our relationship with ourselves. This may be relationship with spirit. This could be relationship with your own personal spirituality, your own personal spiritual truth, your own spiritual beliefs. Any and all of these energies, especially with the South Node and Sagittarius, these things may suddenly come to you and be like, oh my gosh, this is an illusion. I've been living under this illusion, or I've been living in relationship with this illusion. So do be aware. There will be many people facing that through this transit, and it will have 3 passes. So we've already had one. Right before Venus went retrograde, we had one passover of this. And here we are, really working into the second. Now, the other thing that I love that's in part of this square that feels very pertinent to this is we have Venus working hand in hand with Vesta. And Vesta is an asteroid. And Vesta, to me, represents our absolute divinity, knowing that. And so when I was little, I was raised Catholic, and I was up in arms that I could not be a priest if I wanted to be a priest, and I could not be Pope if I wanted to be Pope. I thought that was just wrong. I was like, if I want to be Pope, I'm going to be Pope. I think I told the priests that. I think I told everybody that. And you know what? Good for me. So this is knowing your inherent light, your inherent divinity. It's one of the things that we were taught in Catholicism. You know, you have a priest, and that priest goes to God on your behalf, or, you know, the nun, or the proper clergy. And the thing is, we don't need anyone on our behalf going to do anything for us. That divinity is within you. If you want to be Pope, besides the rules that we still have in place, you can be Pope. You know what I mean? Like, you can have that level of connection with God, Spirit, universe. You may not live in the big fancy church and all that, but who really wants to in this day and age anyway? So this, knowing your inherent divinity, that you are worthy and able to know these things that do come in, and to also go through and go into any of these processes that come up for you over this time. So just hold space for your divinity, for your light that is here, there, with you, ever worthy and ever knowledgeable, tuned in to all of that knowledge. Reminds me of a dream that somebody shared with me today. Anyway, all right, so let's look at some of this other astro energy that we've got going on beyond that, beyond the building. Oh, another thing that we've got going on that feeds in with this, Lilith. Lilith is once again hanging out with Chiron energy, 8 degrees. And so this Lilith Chiron energy, again, is bringing healing to the yin, to the outcasted yin energy. And is like, you are important. We need you. Please be willing to show up. Please be willing to say what you need to say. Please be willing to bring forth your responsibility. It's at 8 degrees, and that is that responsibility. Like, you came with a mission. You came with a destiny. And the healing is part of it. The healing is part of bringing it all up, but just realize that as this part heals, it may be tender, but it doesn't need to be held back. All right. Let's see. What else is going on? So much. All right. Just glancing at the chart. Looking as things approach each other. Moon is connecting to Uranus. Uranus still in Taurus. Again, this feels more like these spiritual understandings, these esoteric truths being realized in and through you, being triggered by everything that's going on right now. One thing that I'm noticing is being triggered in people is memories of Atlantis, Lemuria. Like, a lot of people are having that come to light because our timeline seems to be running kind of parallel to that. So listen to that. Listen to these things coming up and trust what's coming through for you with that. Also, again, that message, getting grounded, staying grounded. Oh my goodness, there's so much. The grounding energy is going to help you tune in, turn on. Moon squaring Mercury. So you may find yourself doubting some of this stuff that comes in. Your rational mind's like, where'd that come from? That's fantasy. Again, how I approach those things is, okay, even if this sounds fantastical, like, what would sound fantastical? I'm really, and I don't know what sounds fantastical anymore, really, truly. So I can't give you an example. But even if it sounds fantastical, what is the bottom line story, and how does it connect to where you are at right now? Because there's always a connecting piece. And if you can find that and get past the mishmash in your head, then you can get down to the nitty gritty. Like, what is the truth there for you? So, and then Mercury connecting to Chiron. Exactly. The healing will come through the understanding, through these stories, through you're allowing these energies to come and move through you. It's like parables. There is so much worthiness in stories, and yet it's not always on the outskirts. It's not always in the details. It's not always in, I was Little Red Riding Hood. Well, what is the truer story of Little Red Riding Hood? What's the deeper meaning there? Get into that, and then you don't have to worry so much about the details. All right, so that's it astro-wise. We are in a state of change, and not all the world is willing. These are 2 10 cards. Yeah. It's almost like a hologram, but it's not. It's just the light. Somebody said I was glowing on camera. I was like, no, it's just the light reflected. Seriously, it's just the light reflected. Change. Wheel of Fortune. But there's a lot of people clinging to this old way. There's a lot of people who are stuck clinging to the old way of being. Slowly, they're going to be tugged along. You need to not worry about where they are. Just ride these waves of change and tune in to what your part in all this is. And your part is not like pounding on their doors being like, awaken, awaken. That is not your part. They will, what is it? Something or be dragged? Like move or be dragged? Like, universe has got that. It's taking care of it. Your work is yourself. Your work right now, Venus retrograde, all these retrogrades, tuning in. Years ago, this was probably 10 years ago, maybe even more, 11, 12 years ago, I was driving and I received a download that was like all the information that was in the Library of Alexandria will be brought forward again. It is seated, it is contained within us, and I feel like this is part of these energies that are going to be bubbling up, these truths, these spiritual knowings that are going to be bubbling up through this retrograde. So your work is to tune in and listen and realize that you may be one of the portals for some of this information to come up and to come through. So that's it for today. You can book a reading with me. Email me, mimiclark@gmail.com. Besides that, the better it gets, the better it gets. There's more than enough love in the world for you. You have the power, and stay curious. Namaste.